I'm Yasmin Gagne.
I'm Josh Christensen.
And this is Most Innovative Companies. On today's episode, Fast Company Associate Editor David Salazar.
It was a huge viral moment, in part because it was one of those things where it's like, oh, T-Pain can actually sing.
Sweetgreen CEO Jonathan Neman.
The holy grail for us is if we can have food that tastes good, makes you feel good, and is at the right price. And so that's where this technology can take us over time.
And as always, keeping tabs.
I don't know why Nicole Scherzinger won the Tony Award. I don't know why people liked her performance. It's not good.
But first, here's the download. The news you need to know this week in the world of business and innovation.
In response to immigration raids begun by the Trump administration, the city of Los Angeles has seen multiple days of protests this past week. The White House has sent hundreds of National Guard troops along with Marines to respond to the unrest. Now, I should say, this isn't exactly in Fast Company's wheelhouse, so we don't focus too much on the protests themselves, but someone deep in the Fast Company universe really got dragged into this.
Mr. Waymo.
Mr. Waymo got dragged into this. So Waymo, the self-driving taxi service, has been caught in the crossfire, with 5 of its vehicles set ablaze this past weekend during the protests. The vehicles, which contain lithium-ion batteries, are particularly dangerous when on fire, releasing toxic fumes as they burn. As a result, Waymo, owned by Alphabet, suspended its taxi service on Monday out of an abundance of caution.
At this year's Worldwide Developers Conference, or WWDC, Apple announced a version of and updates to its family of devices. The biggest announcement was the rollout of Apple's new liquid glass design, which will be rolled out to all devices. Liquid glass will change the look of device displays, reflecting and refracting its surroundings and streamlining menus and buttons for a better user experience. Other announcements include a new and improved Spotlight search app on macOS, the addition of flight tracking to live activities, local capture on iPads that can record video on any video calling app, call screening, the notes on the iWatch, and the ability to track packages with Apple Intelligence, among others. Ooh, tracking packages are going to be very useful.
It's going to be crazy. Notably missing from all of these is any mention of Siri. I feel like they've just given up on Siri. And like they've been trying to incorporate Apple Intelligence into Siri. No, I don't really use Siri anymore because it sucks. It's always sucked. It's really bad.
I know.
And it's just like, I think the brand equity of Siri is so low right now that Apple just needs to get rid of it altogether. Just license Gemini.
Hot take.
Yeah, the coldest take of all, actually. Let's move on out of the tech news. This Monday, Warner Brothers Discovery announced it split into 2 different companies, one that would comprise its streaming services and studio businesses, and another that would be made up of its cable TV networks. This would mean that the newly renamed HBO Max streaming service would now be separate from CNN, TNT, and other networks. The move would essentially undo the 2022 merger of Warner and Discovery. We'll talk about this later.
Pay attention to keeping tabs.
Keeping tabs.
We'll be talking a little more about how much this all cost.
It's the most hilarious set of business decisions made over the course of a few years that I've ever seen. It's
really made me believe that I could run this company.
Move over, David Zaslav.
This has the same vibe as me making decisions in the workplace.
David Zaslav.
There we go.
Aha.
Last Friday, a federal judge approved a deal that forces the NCAA to pay out a $2.8 billion settlement, putting an end to 3 different antitrust lawsuits against the organization. With the settlement, schools can start paying student athletes directly for the first time as soon as July 1st, with an annual cap on payouts starting at around $20.5 million per school for the 2025-2026 school year. Additionally, schools can now limit booster and collective deals, which used athletes' names, image, and likenesses as the de facto team salaries.
And finally, this week, the U.S. and China met in London to hash out a trade deal. According to officials from both countries and President Trump via a truth, as we now get most of our news, a framework of a deal has been reached, though the exact details at the time of this recording are still unconfirmed.
I can't believe you started this with "and finally, no finally," because that is famous last words, you know? Like, that is not... It's
not going to be finally. This is going to change hour by hour. I don't really know. I'm sure we'll get the actual details of this, but in, like, President Trump's truth, I think he said that
I didn't
there
know they
remained
were
a
called
55.
truths.
They're truths, yeah.
It's so funny.
Nothing will ever beat Blue Sky Skeets, which Jay Graber desperately wants to not be the thing. But Jay, I'm sorry. They're skeets. They will be skeets
They
till
are
the end of
skeets.
time. It's going to change. Just go to fastcompany.com if you want the latest details. But it seems like there's a framework as of right now. It's going to be different when you listen to this.
And that's the news you need to know today. So, Josh, have you figured out your song of the summer?
I am the worst person to possibly ask about song of the summer because I'm just so out of the loop on anything that's...
Honestly, me too.
Yeah, I think the song of the summer, unfortunately, has to be the song from the guy on TikTok that sang that really cringy Stadium Rock song on his tiptoes. He'll be
See, again,
married
I'm not
in a year in the summer. A kid on the way in 3.
Oh my God.
Dancing yourself to live in the American. You gotta look this up, Yaz. You will hate it so much. That's the song of the
I'm so
summer.
glad I'm not on TikTok.
No, you gotta be on TikTok. It'll make its way to Reels.
It'll
in 2 weeks.
it'll make it way to Reels eventually.
It'll be on Reels in 2 weeks. It'll be on YouTube Shorts in 3, and it'll be on Red. I was gonna say Redfin, but that's the apartments app. What's the other Chinese app that people were on?
Red Note.
No, maybe it'll be on Redfin. Redfin should roll out vertical video. I would love that. I don't know. What do you think? What is your song of the summer so far?
I think it's gonna be anything from Addison Rae's new album.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's a good poll.
It's a good album.
It's good. We talked about it with Henry a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but the full album just came out, and it's like,
it feels a little Charlie XCX's, where she kind of like pumped like with Brat. That was last summer, right?
Yeah, so it was Brad's summer last year. I feel like it's going to be Addison's summer. I am sort of annoyed, and this is like, I'm a fan of Addison Rae, actually. I wouldn't necessarily criticize her for this, but I feel like everything these days is kind of a throwback in a way that frustrates me. So like Style would be like, oh, so-and-so wore the dress that Cher wore to this event back in the day. You know what I mean? And I'm like, where's like our... Or like this song clearly references this thing from the early 2000s. Sometimes I'm kind of like, I just want something like actually different. Yeah,
there is a lot of referenced like notes going on. I think it's a pretty big thing, and I blame drag culture. That's all drag culture is about.
All right, well, that's fair. The reason we're talking about this is because we're talking about NPR's Tiny Desk concerts today.
Hey, maybe Tiny Desk Concert will launch the song of the summer.
I mean, they certainly launched Paco y Tatriel, which we're about to talk about.
I feel like Red Wine Supernova, Chappell Roan's song, was launched by Tiny Desk Concert as a... Is that the name of the song, Red Wine Super? No.
It sounds like incorrect,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Why don't you come over? Keep all of me singing in this podcast so everyone turns it off. Anyways, we're talking about Tiny Desk Concert.
So with over 11 million YouTube subscribers, Tiny Desk Concerts have evolved into a cultural staple in the US for both established and emerging artists. This week, we invited Fast Company associate editor and friend of the pod, David Salazar, to discuss the impact of NPR's Tiny Desk, how it's evolved over the years, and what to expect from the program in the future. Tiny Desk started in 2008. When did things actually take off in terms of its success? I feel like I have grown up with this franchise.
Right, yeah. I mean, it came out when we were like, in high school? And then it sort of grew while we were in college. And that was, I guess, like prime music listening years. But I don't know. I think I was a fan early college to mid-college, but I think people really started to pay attention beyond sort of like the set of indie darling and like folk rock stuff that is sort of the bread and butter of NPR when they had T-Pain on. And that was like 2014.
So, yeah, you had that in your article, and that's the first one that I really remember.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it was a huge viral moment, in part because it was one of those things where it's like, oh, T-Pain can actually sing. Like, he's not just like hiding behind auto-tune anymore. And like the auto-tune was fully just like a device.
Baby girl, what's your name? Let me talk to you. Let me buy you a drink. And then I'm T-Pain. You know me. convict music, nappy Bowie.
Have you ever seen that incredibly sad T-Pain interview? I think it's from some kind of anthology series on Netflix where he's like,
Oh, yeah, I've seen this.
I was on a plane and Usher came up to me and was like, you ruined music. And he was like, I was such a fan of Usher and it made me so sad.
Yeah, that was a real bummer.
Yeah. Just very, he comes off well. And I think the Tiny Desk concert really like showed his ability.
Yeah, and he comes off as like, he's obviously super nervous. What's fun is that it's a great moment, especially when they're big artists. You can kind of see them be nervous because it's a really small room and there's nothing to hide behind at that point. So you're really just there with your accompaniment and a microphone. And he killed it. People were like, holy shit, T-Pain has pipes. And I think it really, one, changed how people saw him, obviously, but also changed what I think like musicians saw the opportunity as, right? It's not just like, okay, we're going to come in, we got to be an indie folk act and come play for the NPR folks in their office.
You said in the piece, T-Pain like barely uses auto-tune in his live shows now?
Yeah, he does a lot of like live stuff, and I don't think he's using auto-tune that much, if at all. I mean, he also loves to cover War Pigs by Black Sabbath these days. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. He sounds great when he does that.
Yeah. And so it like totally changed, I think, how he saw himself as an artist, too, over time.
So who is like a current artist that has used Tiny Desk to kind of revamp their sound? I wouldn't call it a revamp, but I thought like Doechie's set was really impressive.
Yes. When you're making rap and hip hop stuff, like it's almost all like electronic sounds, right? You've got all the like artificial instruments and beats and stuff, but like when she's there, it's a full live band, and it fully changes the sound of it.
You ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Tell a bitch, hoorah! Step up in this bitch, I look too fly. Cop the tea, your shit on Ventura. Took a midnight swim in my Jula. These hating bitches clog my medulla. I showed the bitch my pen, then I hoorah. Shot a essay them in my Jula.
And I think another one from this past year is Sabrina Carpenter.
Now he's thinking about me every night. Oh, is it that sweet? I guess so. So you can't sleep, baby, I know that's that me espresso. Move it up, down, left, right, oh, switch it up like Nintendo. So you can't sleep, baby, I know that's that me espresso.
I haven't seen that one, actually.
It's really good, because she comes in and like she's got all the live accompaniment. She's got a pedal steel, and it kind of makes it like gives it like a country-ish vibe to all of her songs. And it sort of shows that like it would not be unwelcome if Sabrina Carpenter had like a country moment in the next few years, because a lot of her songs translated really well to sort of like a stripped down vibe.
Could we step back a second? I think we take for granted now how unlikely it is that NPR became a home for big music moments. I mean, maybe give us like a little bit about like the numbers. What's the reach? How has this become such a mainstay? And you talked about MTV Unplugged, it being sort of like the spiritual successor to MTV Unplugged, which I don't think anyone would be like, NPR is going to become the spiritual successor to MTV.
I mean, I think those viral moments like T-Pain and stuff grew the audience, right? Right now it stands at about 11 million YouTube subscribers to NPR Music, which isn't just Tiny Desk, but that is the majority of their output. Bobby Carter, who leads up the Tiny Desk effort, said they record about 3 a week. There are now like 1,200 in the archive, and just have grown on YouTube. And I think that's part of the success, right? Like in 2008, people weren't really looking to YouTube for the same way. Like people used it for music. There were all the like MP3 YouTube rip things, but they weren't really looking for like organic live stuff that's just filmed for YouTube. You know what I mean? And I think that like the first version of that, where Bob Boylan, who used to head up All Songs Considered, and he founded Tiny Desk, he was like, I was at a show in South by Southwest. I could not hear the musician, so I invited the musician I was watching to perform in the office. And that was sort of like, it's very low budget. It's not super well filmed, but he's like, I'm just going to film it. I'm going to throw it up on YouTube. and that's where it lived for a while. And then as people started to keep coming back to YouTube, you know, they kept putting these out. It was not as regular a cadence as it is now at the time. It really grew, and I think that there is sort of a dearth of those moments generally outside of like award shows now, and even those are pretty lackluster for people to see their favorite artist in a new way or to see a really iconic performance. Like, I'm literally like, the last really, really good, say, MTV VMAs award performance I can think of is literally like Lady Gaga in 2009.
I don't know. I thought Doechii was pretty amazing this year.
That was the Grammys.
No love for
that was the
Benson Boone.
Grammys.
But
You know, as we talk about viewership, though, can you share, like, do you have any data on sort of the average amount of views we're getting? Or even, you know, you mentioned there's a Latin group, and I don't know how to pronounce their name because there is a 7 in it.
the 7 is a T.
Oh.
So it's Catriel and Paco Amoroso. And
Catriel and Paco Amoroso. You know, what kind of a lift did they get from being on Tiny Desk? Can you talk about that?
oh yeah, I mean, their lift was unbelievable. Like, so Catriel and Paco Amoroso, they're these two like Argentinian sort of like trap, hip hop, pop artists who are actually quite big in Argentina, but like in the US had maybe like 3,000 streams a day, I think is what I have in the article, which is really not that much. And then they came on, so Tiny Desk in September, like mid-September, mid-October, they do this thing called El Tiny, where they bring in artists from Latin America to sort of celebrate Latin American Heritage Month, and that's programmed by Anne Maria Sayer, who hosts NPR's Alt Latino podcast. And when I was talking about Bacardi, it was like, I really did not see the vision here, you know? But I trusted her, and they came on, and they just, it's like electric.
Tatuaje en el cuello, sí. El pelo negro, sí. De silicona, sí. Se vieron anoche, sí.
It's just like, had a great vibe, but then it like completely blew up. Like, it is like in a year where Billie Eilish did a Tiny Desk, Sabrina Carpenter, the Chappell Roan Tiny Desk, they emerged as like the most viewed video from the series in the year with like, and right now it stands at like 36 million views, which is insane. Wow. And so in a week from the day before the Tiny Desk, when they were getting 3,000 streams in the US, they were getting 222,000 streams a day by the next week. And this whole year, basically, in the US, it hasn't really dipped below 100,000 at all per day.
They performed at Coachella, right? Like, this opened up opportunities that are pretty massive.
Yeah, you and I, actually, you were there. Thank you for providing a translation.
I know. I'm cueing you in like I don't know any of this, but I actually did help you interview their manager because he only spoke Spanish.
Yeah, their tour manager, Jonathan, he's a great guy, and he said, you know, he started working with them after the Tiny Desk aired, but it was really just they were inundated with tour stuff. I mean, they planned a U.S., Europe, Latin America tour, and then, yeah, they got booked at Coachella. They're doing Lollapalooza here. I think they did Lollapalooza in at least one other country. They play Outside Lands in August. They're playing in Mexico at Palacio de Deportes, and they sold that out, and I think that's like a 20,000 cap arena. So it is,
wow.
It's Latin America, it's Mexico, but I don't think they had that same kind of reach in Mexico before this. And they certainly didn't have the Coachella lift, the Coachella fame before the Tiny Desk at all.
They get basically every big and small star band or musical artist to perform. How has their booking process evolved?
Yeah, so Bobby has been on the Tiny Desk since like 2014. And he said that like really early on, it was NPR staffers would like look at tour schedules for bands coming through DC and see like, hey, can you want to come like perform at the NPR offices? Like, we'll get you out before sound check, whatever. And he says now like they don't even need to look at a tour schedule. They are inundated with requests all the time. And he says it's tough. Like, he told me that it's a really difficult undertaking to balance really still wanting to be a huge platform for bringing undiscovered artists to a wider audience and then offering those moments for more established acts. And he says, like, I've made a lot of difficult decisions because we still want to prioritize lesser known artists and like really showcase what less exposed artists are doing. And so it seems like it's really just like a difficult. I don't want that job, basically. Like he said, he's had to turn down a lot of people
Yeah,
that
you
he
do.
would. Okay,
Sorry.
yeah,
Oh, that job would be so awesome.
it'd be awesome, but then you're
I don't
turning
want that
down
job.
like
Okay, Salazar.
you would be turning down. He said he's turned down a lot of like pretty big names in lieu of just like trying to keep the mission going and the
yeah.
ethos there. And I think some of it is like they do some themed months. Like I said, they do El Tiny in September. They do Black.
El Tiny is the funniest
I love
name.
it.
I do have to say, I do love that.
They do Black Music Month in June. So right now that's when like I think Usher was doing a tiny desk for that. That was I think part of Juvenile. That's when he came in, I think.
Oh yeah. You talked about Juvenile a little bit on the.
It really is. I talk
article.
about it a lot. It is like really one of the best things ever to see Juvenile. And like it's one of those things where like he didn't know what it was. Like someone tweeted at him and was like, Juvenile, go on Tiny Desk. And he was like, what the fuck is a Tiny Desk? And then like
That's awesome.
his team was like, we should actually try to do this. And they absolutely tore it up. It was, it's so good.
Greatest love song. Greatest love song ever wrote. Hey, come on, look, y'all ready? Girl, you're working with some man shit. You're bad jay, make a nigga spend his cash at. His last shit, whole smile when you're bad shit. They mad jay, you can ride in the jag, yeah. With that jay, you can smoke a fire bag, yeah.
Is there anyone you're dying to see?
Ooh, that is a great question.
Yeah.
I would really like to see. I don't think Lorde has done one, and I think that could be fun.
Wait, they haven't?
Lorde? No.
I feel like every time I'm like, oh, you know who I'd love to see on Tiny Desk? They've already
Yeah, they've
done
done it.
because they do 3 a week.
Right, they did like
For so
U2
long.
like last year or the year before.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
The one that surprised me, and I gotta say, I'm kind of a hater, but I was really impressed by his Tiny Desk concert, Fred Again.
Right.
I didn't think it would translate, but it worked pretty well.
I don't know who that is.
He's
He's like a DJ guy.
Yeah,
he really blew up.
I could not tell you like a single DJ.
Yeah, I know.
It's not my vibe, not my place.
But yeah, those are the surprising ones where it's like an electronic artist or something. It's like, how are they going to make this work? And they do. And it's awesome. I think Lorde could be fun. It's one of those things where like you really do run the risk of it being bad. When like Third Eye Blind did one recently, and I don't think it was the lead singer's fault. He was sick, but it sounds terrible. It's
sound
really
Isn't he
bad.
famously an asshole? I think he's like famously horrible.
Oh, I
Maybe.
don't know. I love Third Eye Blind though. The music slaps.
I know you do, Josh. So, in terms of what we can expect from Tiny Desk going forward, you mentioned that they're building a global audience. Like in Asia, they're building, franchises.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I mean, like they 2 years ago licensed in Korea, Tiny Desk Korea, and these are like they're literally just like licensing the name to a local, I guess, production company, and they're like half hour like.
Dude, the way we make money in media these days is so wild.
It's pretty
Can I
crazy.
just say?
Licensing deals are high margin. It's a high margin business.
Yep, it's true.
Yes, they work
We
with
know.
they work with like a production company, and I think LG, the telecom LG in Korea to do. They're like half hours. They're like TV episodes basically. And then last year they did the same thing with Japan's Broadcasting Corporation, which is abbreviated NHK, to do Tiny Desk Concerts Japan. And
Have you watched any of those?
I watched a couple, and I think they've done a crossover too when like I think a Korean or Japanese artist was touring, but I watched a ton. There are actually quite a few.
I mean, it makes
It's prolific.
sense. I mean, the music scenes, obviously, like K-pop and J-pop are like huge music industries. So it makes total sense to license it there.
Yeah, and huge opportunity for growing the audience there too. And just
Yeah.
like, oh, what is Tiny Desk? Okay, let me, maybe they'll learn about NPR. But stateside, they're also, and I think they only have like one episode of this, so we'll see if they do more. They're doing Tiny Desk Radio, where it's Bobby Carter and Anne Maria Sayer just sort of like looking at past Tiny Desks, sharing the audio, which it should be noted is like obviously the big star here. It is mixed by NPR audio engineers, each one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So like, and
I feel like they could make money putting that on Spotify.
you'd think.
Well, not much because nobody makes money from Spotify.
Well, and so Catriel and Paco Amoroso, who had that Tiny Desk in October, they put out an EP in February where like it's 4 original songs and then it's the audio from their Tiny Desk. So they give the people what they want. But NPR really should. I mean, like Triple J in Australia puts out the like cover songs that people do on their radio show. But I think the rights mean that they end up with the artist and not like NPR can't do it on
that
their
makes
own.
sense.
Yeah, if they probably make more monetizing on YouTube than they would ever on Spotify.
But they can with this podcast where they put out the audio and then talk a little bit about behind the scenes stuff. Which
No, it falls under fair use and it's they're talking about things. So yeah, that's smart. That's a smart play.
Yeah.
And it also just fits with what NPR does. Like they're a radio station, they're a radio company.
Yeah, and it's really smart. I think it's great because he's like, Bobby was like, there's so many archives. It's great to go back and share some moments from behind the scenes because they're all just sort of like wild. I don't know. I'm sure the experience of having, whether it's an actual really famous person or like an up-and-coming artist in your space 3 times a week has to be kind of fun. Like just the logistics of it lend itself to stories.
It's also led to so much just like parody and like loving earned media at that point. Like I know SNL has done a number of Tiny Desk concert sketches with like Bo and Yang playing just a random staffer trying to get their job done, which is very funny. So it just sort of like lends itself to these viral moments.
It does, yeah. And I think that NPR is really smart about it. They don't do TikTok, NPR Music, but they put like clips on Instagram. And they also, I don't see them taking down any of the many, many, many clips of people's Tiny Desks that are all over TikTok. So I think they understand the viral marketing opportunity there to just bring people into the brand that way. And I think if they were posting huge clips on TikTok, it maybe would feel slightly less organic that way.
What is your favorite Tiny Desk concert?
I was just thinking about this, and it's really hard because there's so many, and there are some that I've like literally forgotten at this point. But there are a few that I return to. I'll say Juvenile's one of them, just because like the pure, absolute energy of it is crazy. It's amazing. One that actually introduced me to Big Thief is theirs from like 2015 or something. Adrian Linker looks really different. It's really wild. And I'd say in terms of revisiting, I've revisited Paco Amoroso and Catriel a lot, and the Chapel Roan one from last year as well.
Yeah, the Chapel Roan one's terrific.
That's all recency bias for the most part. Oh, and actually I was just talking to Blake about Mitski's Tiny Desk from 2015.
Yeah.
She's so unpolished. She's like just out of SUNY Purchase. Like it's a period of time where she did not have a polished stage presence, but she kills it. And then actually there was a more recent one by this band Wednesday where the lead singer Carly Hartzman was like, yeah, I learned to play guitar watching NPR Tiny Desks, specifically Mitski's, because she's using drop tuning and you don't actually have to know that many chords.
Yeah.
We're so old.
That's so smart.
I know.
That is happening.
Do you guys
Josh,
have
what
favorites?
about you? What's your favorite Tiny Desk?
My favorite is the Tiny Desk concert of the Josh Groban Annalie Ashford revival of
That's not true.
Sweetie Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. No, it's probably Chapel Roan's.
I mean, I'm sure that's good. I usually skip the
It is
musical
actually
ones.
very good.
Sorry.
No, I do like the musical ones. I think they're kind of fun because I think it's also usually musicals. There's huge ensembles, especially like the big Broadway musicals, huge pits, lots of musicians. It is cool if you're a fan of musical theater to hear sort of like stripped down, reimagined versions of these huge sweeping musical theater songs. So I do actually really enjoy the musical ones. Sometimes they don't do well. Like it's really hit or miss with the musicals.
I was remembering the Hobo Johnson Tiny Desk and how that got roasted for
I didn't see
a
that
really
one.
he's like
I
is
haven't
just like an
seen that.
earnest like white boy rapper. And it's like one of those things where like the NPR staff totally picked this one. You know, like
NPR's the Macklemore of digital media.
Yaz, what about you?
So I'll call out two because I think the Tiny Desk concert kind of serves dual purposes. So I'll call out like the Fred Again one because I think it helps you see an artist in a new light. Right? I felt like I wasn't a huge fan of his music, but I watched the Tiny Desk and came to understand how talented he is, if that makes sense. And then the other one that I think is just good is the Cat Stevens Use of Islam one, which he's not reinventing the wheel, but he sounds fucking great.
Hell yeah.
His songs are all good. Yeah.
And that also works fine, right? There's like Sheryl Crow, she does a great one. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I feel like those are the two like types of Tiny Desk you want.
yeah.
We'll be back with David Salazar for Keeping Tabs, but first, a quick break followed by my interview with Sweetgreen CEO Jonathan Neman. Sweetgreen will always be, to me, the company that made a sad desk lunch a little less sad and a little more expensive. The 17-year-old company, which went public in 2021, now has almost 1,000 locations in the U.S. We spoke to co-founder and CEO Jonathan Neman about opening new store formats, harnessing technology to change the salad line, and why his salads cost so much money.
If you want to hear and see more of this interview, you can go to Fast Company's YouTube channel to see an extended cut.
And now our interview with Jonathan Neman. So, Sweetgreen recently rolled out some new menu items. The Ripple Flat Fries are very good. You've done a limited time collaboration with Cote, the Michelin-starred KBBQ restaurant. And I'm thinking, like, you've had some other, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but random collaborations. You know, from Naomi Osaka to Susan Alexandra. Where do these ideas come from? Like, how do you decide what collaboration makes sense?
So it really starts by listening to our customer and trying to tell, some story around our food. So KBBQ is an example. We've heard from customers that they're looking for bolder flavors, heartier dishes. So as we've leaned into heartier, more protein-forward food, we thought it was a really cool way to tell that story with the best KBBQ chef in the world, the only Michelin-starred chef, who happened to be a friend of ours that, we decided to tell these stories around and create these bowls. And so far it's been very successful. Customers are loving it. Years ago when we started these collaborations, it was Dan Barber, and it was telling a story around the waste in the supply chain. And then it was David Chang and telling the story about sustainability and sourcing kelp. When we came to California for the first time, we partnered with John and Vinny's and then partnered with Nancy Silverton, classic California chefs, again, highlighting our produce with their culinary credibility. So one of the reasons we love to partner with chefs more than anything is Sweetgreen is such a culinary forward brand. While we are a fast casual restaurant, or sometimes we call ourselves even a fast food restaurant, we have full service kitchens. We prep all our food from scratch. We are buying from farmers, kind of many of the same farmers that a lot of the high-end restaurants are buying them from. And we're just serving them in a convenient and more affordable environment. And so that's where partnering with these chefs kind of helps us with some of our innovation, but also helps us tell these stories around the culinary excellence that we like to bring to our customers.
I want to talk about your sort of investment in technology. You invested in, or rather you acquired a company to make infinite kitchen robots, which is a very grandiose term. But tell me a little bit about your automation efforts around salad preparation.
We call it the Infinite Kitchen. We don't consider it a robot. It is an automated make line. And it really started with this idea of how can we improve the customer experience? And when we looked closely at what were our customers telling us around a lot of the detractors around the business, it was they loved the sourcing, they loved the scratch cooking, but oftentimes in our fast-paced environment, serving a lot of people in a short period of time, getting accuracy and on time could be challenging. And so we acquired this company called Spice Kitchen, amazing founders that are all still with us leading this effort. They were engineers out of MIT that built this technology for their own restaurant company. And we decided to then join forces almost 4 years ago. And the idea was, can we better create an experience with higher quality food, faster, more accurate? And that's, what the customer wants along the way. Can we make it easier to work in our restaurants? It can be a little bit stressful at times working in a fast-paced Sweetgreen. So making it easier to work in the store, easier to manage a store. We've seen that. We're seeing significantly less turnover in the stores that have it. And then can we create a better business model with it? And so far we've been able to do that as well. We're seeing some nice margin leverage. And over time, we see it as a way to attack our price value equation even more. With this technology, over time, we're already starting to test into how we can give some of those savings back to the consumer. And, the holy grail for us is if we can have food that tastes good, makes you feel good, and is at the right price. And so that's where I think this technology can take us over time. We are very early still in our development. While we've done quite a bit, we've opened 12 restaurants with the Infinite Kitchen technology. We're going to open at least 20 or so more this year, and then probably continue to scale it next year. And we're continuing to test and learn exactly what's the right layout, what's the right customer experience. But so far, the feedback has been great, and most of the results have been really great as well. Have you been?
No, I wrote about it, but I have not actually been to the restaurant. I am curious, though. Do those restaurants require kind of fewer human employees? Like, I'm trying to understand where the cost-saving part comes in.
At peak, it requires fewer people on production. So
Sure.
You still have a lot of people working there. You still have a management team. You still have, a culinary team cooking the food, prepping the food. The Infinite Kitchen does most of the assembly, but there's a few elements that do not go in the automation. So we have what we call a finishing station. So it's like a chef's counter at the end where we finish off each bowl. Those are where things like salmon, avocado, your bowl can be mixed there. And then there's that hospitality component. So you are operating with about a third less labor in each of those restaurants. But, you walk in and you'll still see a lot of people. It does not feel like it's a fully automated restaurant.
Has food waste been cut down on with an automated system? I know that's a huge bane of any restaurants.
Yes.
Production and bottom line.
Because now we have a perfect understanding of what is being used and what's needed. It's not just the Infinite Kitchen, but the systems we built around it. So there's tools that it triggers both on the cold prep and hot prep side. So it knows. There's like a mission control where the team sees and they're like, okay, chicken is running low. You got 7 servings of chicken left. Now time to fire more chicken. So we get this perfect kind of ability to make sure we're keeping the food as fresh as possible and reducing waste. So yes, we've seen a reduction in food waste. I think the most surprising thing has been the improvement in actual product quality. We thought the product quality would be equal, but what was interesting is because of the way we hold the food in these kind of enclosed containers in these tubes, where they're pressurized and, you have perfectly temperature controlled, cold or hot, we're seeing, just the bowls be even more vibrant in terms of taste and flavor and color.
In terms of the savings that you hope to pass on to customers, what can you share about that?
Right now, we're still testing and learning into it, but the goal would be at scale to be able to figure out different price points for different consumers, making Sweetgreen even more accessible to many of our kind of fast food and fast casual peers, and really helping us drive more transactions through some of those price moves. So we've run some early tests, and we think there may be some opportunities to leverage some of those savings and give back to the customer.
I was looking at a JP Morgan report, and analysts cut Sweetgreen's target share price and basically explained the reduction by noting that Sweetgreen prices are 7 to 30% higher than those of its competitors.
Yeah.
And in the report, they said absolute value has become an issue at the brand. So I'm just trying to understand, what's going on.
Absolutely. It's something we're really, really conscious of. And I think there are opportunities for us to have different pricing tiers to bring in more consumers. However, in terms of what we offer, we're very proud of the sourcing. We're very proud of the way we treat our teams and the scratch cooking we put into our food. So, there is a cost to all that we do, and our customers typically value that, right? They value that our chicken never has antibiotics in it. Many of our competitors do. They value that we make everything in our restaurants from scratch every day, whereas many of our competitors don't. We have taken less price than the whole industry since COVID. While there's been a ton of inflation, we have taken less than everyone. If you look at how much a value meal at McDonald's in California is today, it's about $18. So
How have you managed that?
How have we managed that?
Yeah, how have you managed to basically under?
Much of it has been our less reliance on beef, which has seen the largest increases from an inflation perspective. I think price is important. We want Sweetgreen to be as accessible as possible. And we're doing all that we can through, automation and other efforts to have different price points. I will say that a custom bowl at Sweetgreen in most markets starts at under $10.
Gotcha.
So you can get in and out if you want for $10 in almost every city at Sweetgreen. We also do have different pricing tiers where we price largely dependent on the price of labor and real estate. So the price in Sweetgreen is different than the price in Minneapolis, for example. But a lot of it is to cover the cost. I mean, if you look at the margin structure, we're not over-earning in terms of what we charge for the food. We are charging what we believe is a fair price for all that we're doing, while still believing there's an opportunity to offer different price tiers. But it all goes into what we're putting into the food. And it's the fact that we're not processing our food. We're not putting stabilizers in our dressings. We're not doing a lot of the things that much of traditional fast food does to drive down the costs. Thinking about our fries, for example, most companies have frozen fries that they fry. We are hand cutting our fries and air frying them every 15 to 30 minutes. So there's a lot of handcrafted value that we are bringing. And, I think our customers really value that. But we also understand in this time where, people are more conscious of their spending, that there can be other ways to address it. One thing that we've done recently is we've reintroduced a loyalty program. And a loyalty program that...
I wrote about your old confusing one.
Yes.
But I think you have a newer one.
We have a newer one. It's a lot simpler. The older one, while it was great for a small segment of customers that loved it, it was more of a membership program. This new program is more of a standard loyalty program, kind of powered by a lot of AI in the back, where we can target promotions and offers to different customer segments.
Have you all been affected by tariffs? I know you're known for using locally sourced ingredients, so I can't imagine you've been hit as hard as other businesses.
No, definitely more immune than most businesses. Our supply chain is primarily domestic, so from a supply chain perspective, pretty insulated. There are a few items that do have an impact, one being our packaging, which is not, so we do have one domestic producer, but a couple of our suppliers are international. We also have some impact to some of the component parts of our Infinite Kitchen. And then there's some things that we buy in terms of building restaurants from things like steel and millwork and things like that in terms of how we build restaurants. But overall, the impact from tariffs is very minimal, and who knows what's going to happen. As you've watched the news, we don't know where things will even land.
The Infinite Kitchen obviously incorporates a fair amount of AI, is my guess. But how else are you incorporating that sort of emergent technology into the business?
So it's something I'm very passionate about, and I think something that we've been early adopters on in a number of ways. So there's a few different applications today that we use in terms of how we run the company. One being within the restaurants, how we forecast our sales and deploy our labor, as well as purchasing, all kind of driven via AI. Second application is around customer service. We've begun piloting a number of different customer service tools around AI. We've seen a huge improvement in our customer service scores through leveraging. We're leveraging some cool AI tools for research that we're really excited about, that we've seen some really interesting things on. Of course, our engineering team is using all of the tools, things like Cursor, as we build new products. And then over time, we see an opportunity to leverage AI to truly personalize the ordering experience, where based off of your order history, your dietary preferences, you would have a different menu presented to you versus someone else.
What is your timeline for becoming profitable? I think it was an earnings report from last year that Sweetgreen lost more than $2 for every salad it sold. What is the roadmap to get there?
Sweetgreen was profitable on an adjusted EBITDA perspective last year, and will increase that this year. The difference between adjusted EBITDA and net income is maybe what you're referring to, is our stock-based compensation and depreciation. So the way depreciation works in our company is, as we open a lot of stores, we depreciate them over the life of the lease. So it's not a cash profitability. It's more of from an accounting perspective, but from a pure cash perspective, we are profitable. We've continued to leverage our G&A, and we'll continue to do so as we scale our footprint and expand our margins. And the incremental profit from each store flows through to the bottom line.
At the same time, over the past year, the stock price has decreased by 56%. And I know stock prices it's not the right way to put it, but I mean, anything can make them fluctuate. But why do you think that is?
As you said, the market in the short term is a voting machine and the long term is a weighing machine. And right now, we've always been focused on building a sustainable, long-term, profitable, and valuable company. We've been doing this for 18 years. We have a very big mission and vision, and we're laser focused on delivering that. I think one of the reasons that we've seen it is partially macroeconomic things, but also, our same-store sales came down from where they were last year. We saw some consumers pulling back and some of our frequency kind of coming down from some of our customers. And given being a relatively small cap company, our stock can be very volatile. But I like to really focus on the business fundamentals and most importantly, making sure that our customers love us. And over time, as we deliver more value to our customers, I'm very confident that the stock price will follow.
Something Sweetgreen has done that's always impressed me is how much you all experiment with stores. So you've got the Infinite Kitchen stores. You had this sort of office delivery program. There were some that were just pickup only, very small stores for a while. Tell me about the sort of store categories now and which ones you're investing in.
Sure. The different store formats that we have today are, we have our classic format, which is the classic Sweetgreen with a front line and a digital make line. Mm-hmm. We've introduced a pickup-only Sweetgreen where there's no front line. It's only app or digital app or kiosk ordering. There's typically smaller footprint stores. We run a lot of our delivery business and our pickup business out of those restaurants. We are now beginning to open some of those powered by the Infinite Kitchen. And then we have our Infinite Kitchen format, which we've talked about. And then we have a concept we call the Sweet Lane, which is our version of our drive-through. It's a mobile order and pickup drive-through experience. We have one of them in the Chicago area. It does phenomenally well. We have a few more opening this year, some powered by the Infinite Kitchens and one not. We see a lot of potential in the Sweet Lane format. Especially, we're very excited about the Sweet Lane coupled with the Infinite Kitchen together because of the speed of service that we will be able to offer. Really, it will unlock our ability to offer fast food speed in a more fast casual environment, which nobody's really been able to crack. So that's one area that we're very excited about.
People are going to the office less, and that's been the case since COVID. And I always think of Sweetgreen as a quintessentially office lunch. How have you all dealt with that?
I think for a long time, Sweetgreen was the quintessential office lunch. But we've evolved a lot, the footprints evolved, and the menus evolved, where it's much less so today. Ever since COVID, most of our development has been out in the suburbs. Our suburban AUVs are pretty much the same as our urban AUVs. And so while we do really well in that office world, we've actually broadened much beyond that. And Sweetgreen today is in almost 25 states, all types of different neighborhoods, and seeing really good success consistently across the country. So while, some of the bread and butter is office, and of course with COVID, a lot of that went away, the suburban stores and kind of broadening what we've done has also done really well for us.
On Twitter a while ago, you posted a photo of yourself wearing a Make America Healthy Again hat, which I now understand was maybe a joke. But I am curious how you think about the agenda of Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr.
Sure. The reason I started this business really for me was always the mission. I always saw food as one of the pillars of health, and it's such a big problem to solve. Making healthy food delicious and desirable, convenient, and more affordable is something that I'm very, very, very passionate about. If you look at what fast food has done, it solved one problem, but it created a whole nother problem. So I do think that bringing more real food to the public is a very good thing. Going back from when we started, anyone inside the government or outside the government that was looking to promote this way of living and eating, we've partnered with. So back with Michelle Obama and Let's Move and White House chef Sam Kass, we were close partners with them. We started something called Sweetgreen in schools for a long time leading up to before COVID, where we shut it down. We were helping feed and educate 4th and 5th graders in school around healthy food. So that has been part of the core mission of Sweetgreen for a very long time. In 2016, we had a festival, and kind of as a joke, we made these Make America Healthy Again hats. Funny how that became this big platform. So what I'd say is I will only speak to the narrow parts that I have the knowledge in and affect my world, which is around food. So I think what they've done around food dyes and some of the things specifically around artificial ingredients that are in our food, I think that's undeniably amazing. Like, that is just great. I don't know, do you want your children eating that stuff?
Yeah.
Like, let's just put politics aside. It's a great thing. I also think things like the fact that we spend $12 billion a year of SNAP on soda that then makes people sick, that shouldn't happen. And so there's parts of the agenda as it relates to food that I think is very on point. I think there's a huge promotion of regenerative agriculture and more organic farming and a support of local farming. So there's a lot of it that I definitely agree with. As it relates to things that are not in my lane, I have a rule: I don't talk about those things because it's not what you're here to listen to me about vaccines or not.
Well, RFK Jr. has been a really big proponent of removing seed oil from food preparation. That is something that Sweetgreen did. What was the thinking behind that?
We did it years ago, really just hearing from our customers. So really, like, as we listen deeply to our customers and what they care about, and we heard from a lot of our most, loyal customers, I kind of stopped coming to Sweetgreen because I can't eat seed oil, can't eat without seed oils. And even though we were very proud of the type of oil we use, it was a high oleoalic sunflower oil. Customers told us that they would come more often and they would become, more loyal customers without seed oil. So about, 2 years ago, before it got politicized, we began doing it. And we made a commitment that we were going to continue doing it, going through our supply chain, kind of item by item, trying to offer more seed oil-free options for guests. Of course, everyone likes to politicize it. We're not here to talk politics. I'm here to talk food and health.
I do feel like you guys publicized it, though, as it got politicized. Is that fair to say? I mean, I was getting a lot of press releases about this, around the time it was in the culture.
Again, it's listening to our guests. And so as more and more people were talking about it, there was an opportunity to deliver on that. Again, I don't think it's a political thing to say we want to serve olive oil.
How hard was it to get seed oils out of your production?
Pretty challenging in some things. Some things easier, some things harder. A lot of recipes had to be reformulated. We had to increase our olive oil supply, change a lot of how we cooked and held things. So certain things more challenging than others. The real challenging things are more around seed oil in inputs that we have. So I'll give you an example. We use a really great mayonnaise for our Caesar dressing. It's a Sir Kensington's mayo. Well, in the Sir Kensington's mayo, there is a seed oil. So until I can find a mayo producer that it produces mayo without seed oils, it's hard for me to make that without seed oil. So those are the ones that are more challenging. The things where we control all of the inputs directly are much easier.
What can you say about the next few years at Sweetgreen, or even the next year? What will we see more of? What can we look forward to?
Really right now focused on menu innovation and bringing more flavor and variety to the menu. One thing we've heard from our customers is they miss the seasonal menu. So that's something that we're...
Yeah, I miss the seasonal menu.
Yeah, so that's coming back in a big way starting in July, and it will continue each season, kind of revamped how we did it, bringing some of the classics back and some new things, but expect to see seasonal menus coming back. We're innovating a lot of things further up the funnel. So things like beverage are in test today. We used to serve soft serve called Sweet Flow. That's another test that's going on. We've talked publicly about the opportunity to introduce a handheld from a menu perspective, our version of a wrap. So there's a lot of opportunity around continued menu innovation. A lot of what I'm focused on right now, though, is just continuing to elevate the core. How do we get better as we get bigger? So thinking about each ingredient. How do I make the chicken better? How do I make the steak better? The salmon, how do we get the right, better cut? How do we think about the seasoning? How does it hold better? The number one focus right now is just elevating the core of what we do and making our execution in the restaurant as consistent as possible.
Thank you so much for coming on the
Thanks for
show,
coming on.
Jonathan. This was great.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we are back with David, and it's time to wrap up the show with Keeping Tabs. This is where each of us shares a story, trend, or piece of pop culture we're following right now. And David, since you're our guest, what are you keeping tabs on?
This is something that I think you're co-keeping tabs on, but in a more stringent business reporter way than I am. Cat's Eye, the global girl group.
Them.
They're so interesting, but their song Gnarly is really, I think, it's so cool.
But it's not charting enough, and they get all these crazy brand deals. They feel like anyway, sorry.
No, you're right.
No, go into it. What is this? I think I only know them. They had some viral moments on TikTok. Can you unpack this a little more for me?
Yeah, totally. So like Hybe, the big South Korean label that created like BTS and New Jeans, that's a whole other can of worms, but they created BTS, New Jeans, and a ton of other K-pop stars. They're in a partnership with Geffen Records, which is under UMG here in the U.S. They're trying to test the K-pop model in the U.S. by doing like a contest. There was a Netflix documentary about it called, I think it's just called like Cat's Eye Dream Academy.
Oh, yeah. I did see that on Netflix.
It's about choosing these 5 girlies who are the like girl group now, or is it 6? I actually literally have no clue how many people are in Cat's Eye. And so there's just a ton of money going into this to try and make it work, essentially. Like Hybe and Geffen are both really bullish that this succeed. They've brought in a ton of pop songwriters and are kind of trying everything. Like their first 2 songs were very straightforward, like poppy, kind of K-poppy sounding, like very sweet and almost saccharine songs.
Yeah, you had that one that was like, into got so out of touch.
Yeah, that's a
It's
fun
catchy.
song.
It is catchy.
It's catchy, and then Gnarly is like a complete departure from that because it's like pure hyper pop. They brought in the songwriter Alice Longyu Gao, who had posted like a version of it years ago on TikTok, and they sort of turned it into a full song, and then the like choreography has been everywhere, all over TikTok and Instagram and stuff. And so it's also really catchy. I'm Cat's Eye pilled, unfortunately. I don't really know why.
Where I was going with this, Josh, is like prior to them even having a big hit.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're manufactured. They're like so in the system. It's by design. You know, they had deals modeling for Coach. They, had a lot of sort of really big brand deals that kind of preceded their success on the charts, which is fascinating to me, right?
Yeah.
Recently, they launched a bunch of lip glosses with Glossier that are actually very cute and I suppose coincide a little more with their success. But I was really interested in like seeing artists where brand deals come before success in their industry because I think that's kind of rare.
It seems like they're sort of like reverse engineering. Like it seems like something that's so nakedly capitalistic where it's just like, well, the point of this, of having like a girl group for record labels is to make money. So let's just create a brand around 6 attractive women and the music will come. Like the music's almost incidental to that.
Oh,
like
I mean, I feel like that's been done before, but you haven't seen brands falling in line. That's all I'm saying, right? Like Fifth Harmony was around, but Coach wasn't like, let's sign you up before you've had a hit. And I think that's like the really interesting part to me. But anyway.
It shows how labels have changed how they're doing business too, where they're like, we're going to go out to brand partners before we even have an album. And we've put so much into this. But yeah, you're right. Yes, it's fascinating. And also, people complain a lot about like industry plants or whatever. But like these are a huge industry plant. It's like very obviously planted by the industry to succeed. And people are like, you know what? The dances work, so we're not going to say anything.
I think if you say, like, we're industry plants, then you do it, it's fine. It's when, like, somebody feels organic, and then you're like, her dad is who?
Yeah. Or, like, Benson who?
Oh, my God. Yeah. Gracie who? Josh, what are you keeping tabs on?
It's got to be the Tony Awards. I was going to try to do something else, but it's the biggest, like, point of commentary was the race for Best Actress in a Musical, where it had come down to Audra McDonald, Broadway royalty legend. She did Mama Rose and Gypsy, and Nicole Scherzinger, famously from the Pussycat Dolls, who was in this revival of Sunset Boulevard that came over from the West End. And there was a little bit of buzz behind Jasmine Amy Rogers, who was in the musical Boop, who's apparently fantastic, newcomer, but that sort of fell away. It was really these 2 people. And Nicole Scherzinger ended up winning. Audra McDonald won the Drama Desk Award the week before. And then so there was like a lot of things up in the air. I am still baffled by why anyone was up, I don't know why Nicole Scherzinger won the Tony Award. I don't know why people liked her performance. It's not good. It's not good. Sunset Boulevard's a garbage show. The production is pseudo-artistic nonsense, and Nicole Scherzinger is not very good in it. I don't know what we're doing.
People love the guy in it. I haven't seen it. I have no idea.
Tom Francis is very talented. He's very good, but why is he walking down Broadway into the theater singing one of the stupidest songs, by the way, in musical theater history, Sunset Boulevard? It's honestly the dumbest song ever. But it's why? Why are we all of these things? The Broadway community loves a pseudo-artistic, auteur sort of production that's connected to nothing. Like the Oklahoma revival a few years ago that won, it was hot garbage and nonsense. Nothing was connected to anything. It was just random aesthetic choices for random aesthetic choices' sake. And this production's the same way. And also, Sunset Boulevard sucks. It's a bad musical. It's just actively dumb, poorly written, and the music blows. I don't know what we're doing.
So you won't commit to acknowledging Sunset Boulevard's right to exist?
It has a right to exist. It doesn't have a right to beat out Audra McDonald, who was far better in a far better production of Gypsy.
Is your bigger issue with Sunset Boulevard as a musical in general, or is it with this production and Nicole Scherzinger? Because I can't really figure it out based on what you're saying.
It's all of it. It's every single level of it. It's not a good musical that didn't need to be revived. There's no purpose to revive it altogether. It was directed by this guy, Jamie Lloyd, who's this sort of, he's just kind of an insufferable West End director who's just that type of artist, pseudo-artist sort of feel, who has these very bold interpretations of shows, but it's just kind of nonsense. And then Nicole Scherzinger being on there, she can sing pretty well, but she's just not good in it. She's just not very good. But I feel like people are oh, it's Nicole Scherzinger. This is crazy that she's doing it. And it's not a disaster. So she gets a Tony Award. The PR push behind it was intense. So really,
she's been on stage. She was in, I'm not defending her or anything.
She did a West End production
wasn't she
of Cats in 2014.
That's what I'm saying. And I feel like she got fine reviews for it. But I know you're well, it's Nicole Scherzinger, that's why, but I don't know. I feel like this is not the first time she's been on stage and that's why she's getting buzz.
No, it's not the first time, but it's still what she is in the zeitgeist. One, it wasn't on Broadway, it was in the West End, which just makes a difference there. And she's still in the zeitgeist known as Nicole Scherzinger of the Pussycat Dolls and X Factor. So there is an expectations game that benefited her versus especially Audra McDonald.
He's not beating the Starfucker allegations, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't get it, and I think it just makes the theater community look stupid. I just think it makes them look stupid.
Have you seen the producers, at the end where he's you made a fool out of Hitler, and they pop out and they go, he didn't need our help. That's apropos of nothing you just said.
No, it's true. I mean, it's a good point, but it's just, yeah. So anyways, that's just for me. For everyone who's still with us listening to this podcast, thank you for sticking around. Now it's time for Yaz's Keeping Tabs.
So Warner Brothers Discovery is splitting into two companies. But what I thought was interesting
conscious uncoupling
is that I saw some data about how much McKinsey has charged them over the years to advise them. So in 2022, McKinsey was paid $55 million to advise Warner Brothers to combine with Discovery. From 2022 to 2025, McKinsey charged Warner Brothers Discovery, merged, $37 million by advising the company to change HBO to HBO Max, then to Max, then back to HBO Max. In 2025, McKinsey billed Warner Brothers Discovery an additional $63 million to determine that Warner Brothers and Discovery should be separate brands again. So I obviously think layoffs are terrible, but this has been, I think, a pretty record year for consultant layoffs, and McKinsey very rarely does layoffs because it tends to rely on attrition and then recruiting less.
Yeah.
But I think it has this year. And I mean, Your work speaks for itself sometimes, guys.
Oh, God, that is wild.
That is so much money. Somebody should have hired me and paid me all that money to give them bad and contradictory advice. I could have done it. I could have made a fucking slideshow.
There's a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me sort of thing happening here. Like, you kept paying McKinsey almost $200 million to poorly advise you for
I love the
years.
idea of like 5 of my exes sitting in a room making these decisions. It makes so much sense.
Well, I mean, how much of it is it just like Zaslav paying them $70 million to hear what he wants to hear? Until
I mean, that's
he's sick of hearing what he wants to hear.
That's also a big part of it.
Respect
anyway,
the
I think it does. I think it does lay bare the limited utility of hiring consultants sometimes, often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And also the limited utility of the Discovery Plus catalog among HBO subscribers.
Yeah, they really bet so much on
You're
that.
telling me that the people who love The Wire aren't also going to love My 600-Pound Life?
Well, in fact, there is a Venn diagram, and I am at the center of that. But
I think that's a great place to wrap up.
That's it for Most Innovative Companies. David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, as always, for having me.
Our show is produced by Avery Miles and Blake Odom with help from Sam Gebauer and Hawa Atori. Editing by Matt Toder, mix and sound design by Nicholas Torres, and our executive producer is Tony Award winner Josh Christensen. Remember again to subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next week.